Today we have discussed about the international conflict. First, we have to know about the conflict. What is conflict? So, the word conflict is derived from the Latin word confligere, confligere. Latin word from the Latin word it was derived, meaning the to strike together. According to Kenneth Boulding, defines conflicts as a form of competitions in which the competing parties recognize that they have necessarily incompatible goals. Conflict has some causes and some sources which are like general sources, specific sources, and global sources of contemporary conflicts. Aggressive human nature, the general conflict general sources are aggressive human nature, socio-economic and political inequalities, denial of human rights, specific sources, religion, ethnicity, racism, caste ideology, and global sources of contemporary conflicts, like the um, ideological difference. One contemporary sources of contemporary conflicts, uh, ideological difference, armament, national interest, border, etc. So now we have to discuss broadly what is international conflict. That traditionally, the term international conflict referred to conflicts between different nations, states, and conflict between people and organizations in different nation states. However, it also applies to intergroup conflict within one country when one group is fighting or independence or increased social, political, or economic power. E.g., Sudan or South Sudan, Iraq, mm, now that the US has largely left, and Syria. Descriptions. A distinction is made between private sector international conflicts between individual and or business which just happen to come from two different countries and conflict between different national governments. Private conflicts are similar in nature to private domestic interpersonal businesses. Conflict expect except that they are further complicated by distance, culture, sometimes language, and in ambiguity regarding whose laws will be applied. Sometimes these issues become very difficult to handle, but increasingly international business conflicts call for dispute resolution through arbitrations with one of many international arbitration organizations. This avoids jurisdictional disputes and moderates some of the other complicators as well. Public public international conflicting to be much more difficult to resolve. While this term was originally limited to conflict between sovereign nation states, in the last 2 decades, an increasing number of so-called international conflicts have actually been intergroup communal conflicts within one country. Example are Ireland, Sri Lanka, Bosnia, Kosovo, Rwanda, and Czechia. In addition to one listed above and many others. In most of these causes, the issues in dispute has been the sovereignty of parties, particular ethnic group or region, and or the equality of this ethnic group in the political, social, and economic structure of their own society. Until recently, the concept of sovereignty suggested that other nations should not become embroiled in such international intervention in this domestic conflict increasingly common. An example of a private sector international conflict would be a conflict between US computer company and a Japanese company which was supplying motherboards for the US company. If the Japanese company had a contract requiring them to ship 10,000 motherboards, 10,000 motherboards a month, but they only ship 6,000. This would cause a private international conflict. It would not be a conflict that involved the US government, but it would be one that would likely be handled in an international tribunal of some sort. Another example would be a parents who travel from the USA to China, believing that they would be able to adopt a Chinese infant when they arrived. However, when they got to China, they were told that their infant was no longer available and they would have to go home. This conflict might be harder to handle unless there was some sort of written agreement as to what would be done. In the case of this agreement, without that, the American couple would be a very shaky ground, being in China and being subjected to Chinese laws in the case. Example, the public international conflicts are in the news daily. The conflicts between the USA and the Taliban as Afghanistan is an international conflict, as is the conflicts between India and Pakistan. But more and more conflict within countries are considered international too. If international intervention is being uh, contemplated or has actually occurred case in Bosnia, Kosovo, Libya or Iraq. Above other discussions of international conflict. Thank you for watching.